All right, Nico, let's get into some Foxfire chat. Let's start with life without the Valley. There was some outstanding scenes at the end of proceedings after the Cox Plate. I love the fact that they did have the Cox Plate as race 10, albeit the fact that, yes, they are burning the place to the ground. But they allowed the punters to get on the track and, to be honest, rip the joint up, literally.
I reckon there's a few punters that have been dying to do that for years after torching cash on Friday nights. Did you get the winning post? You were talking about going.
Yeah, no, we've got a piece of the winning post. They wouldn't allow us to, but we've cloak and daggered some stuff, and we've ended up getting most of it. So that'll be in the studio.
I'll keep an eye out on eBay, should I? I'll check eBay for it.
But me in particular, probably been critical of the fact that they are seeming to burning down the history of this place, and no longer will, I think, the Cox Plate have that charm. We'll never hear the word amphitheatre again. But they get an opportunity. They get an opportunity to, obviously, they're saying they missed 1 year. That'd be great if they only missed 1 year, and they'll be back in 2027 for the Cox Plate at the new Moonee Valley. Whether that happens or not, I'm not so sure. But they get an opportunity, too, to make this track world-class, don't they?
Well, the thing is, Jules, is a lot of punters go, they're tearing down the Valley, the amphitheatre. They're the same punters complaining about the track being crap to bet on every week. So you can't win if you're an administrator in some respects. And I know I've been pretty vocal against administrators in the last few weeks about a few things, but truly, we've got to give them the chance to make this right. So I put out a tweet. Look, funny story. Put out a tweet about how Moonee Valley track was shit because we heard there was a hole in it. Michael Brow, to his credit, reached out to me and said, "Do you want to talk about this?" I said, "Yep." And he spoke about it. I said, "Look, come on, I do a podcast with TBF." And I said, "Come on and give it to me." I was out of line. I had a couple of drinks and we've been told this. You were there when we got told all the info. So, and to his credit, he reached out and I said to him, "Look," and I think, there was a mistake on my behalf. It was poor journalism. But we've got to give the club the chance to make this right. Who knows? It might be bigger and better than what has been a great little amphitheatre. They might find a way to make this even more special. So they've got a lot of units going around it. Let's just give them the chance to do it.
If it comes back in, say, 2027 or whatever is of the Cox Plate, this is my belief, that if you're going to have it like this, and this may be a wrong belief, I think the Cox Plate has to be night. I think I would build it up.
I do too.
If you're back, we're going to do it as a night and make this as big a night as you can possibly do in world racing. That's my belief.
Yeah. I think that's where they've got to own it. I think there's lights maybe going up here at Randwick as well. And I think what we've got to do is start pushing into that space a bit. There's a lot of Saturday sport as there is. We know from a commercial point of view, there can be some real huge value into night sport. So, yeah, mate, I 100% agree with you there. And I think the Valley's done it. The Valley Friday nights is the best night racing in Australia.
Yeah.
And it's on a track that's really difficult to bet on.
Yeah.
So if you now make that a track that's actually really good, like Pakenham's a really good track to bet on, I find. It's one of my favourite bush tracks in the country, and RV's done a great job with it. So if they can do that to Moonee Valley, have it on a Friday night and still keep that kind of atmosphere, that's a massive win for the industry.
Yeah, and the key for them is to be able to keep that atmosphere, because you mentioned Pakenham. Well, Pakenham, when you go out there, is just built for TV. You're not like the grandstands and stuff are not built for population of people to go there and actually attend the track. It is purely built for TV. Moonee Valley have got to be able to build it for TV and build it for the populace to be able to attend as well. So you've got the joint rocking like it was on Saturday. That's the Valley. Mate, you've raised sort of these things over social media over the last 24 hours, and I think it's a really good point. We've had Sir Dilius go over and obviously Deacon, and there's probably been a couple others maybe as well that I've missed. But does a Racing Victoria incumbent that they need to start producing a list of horses that have had the scan and that have passed to give what we talk about all the time in this game, and what the game lets itself down is integrity and being transparent with what is going on, because at the end of the day, what's funding it are the punters, and they need to know information. If you've got the information at your fingertips, surely it needs to be passed on to the punter.
Yeah, they've just dropped the ball a bit on this one. So, look, I've been pretty critical. I want to make a point here, right? The two things that fuel this industry is horses and punters, right? You don't have an industry without horses, so we've got to look after them. The horses don't even have a life without punters betting, because no one's going to breed them and race them without there being wagering tax turnover that funds the prize money. Okay, so they're both equally as important. So when we had horses, dying on the track in the Melbourne Cup, that had to get fixed. It is our flagship race. It's the biggest race of the year. And so many people out there who don't necessarily love racing like you and I are watching that race. And when they see that, it's really bad for us. RV did the right thing. They took really extreme measures such as the scans, and I'm not 100% with them, but I'm happy to say, okay, they're getting it right. Like, it is fixing the problem. Whether or not there's other things contributing to that, less internationals, no Aidan O'Brien, etc. Right? But the fact is we haven't had deaths since they introduced the scans. So we've got to give them credit. The problem is we've got a situation with Deakin where the Wolfton boys, who do a good job, they do a show like you and I do, and they do a great job in engaging the audience. They released something last Thursday on their show saying that they had like a text message or something that Deakin had been scanned and that there was a problem with him. My question is how does the governing body that gets a cut of the wagering tax turnover on that horse when people bet on it for the Melbourne Cup, how do they not tell people that, how do they allow bookmakers to take bets on him knowing that he's not going to run in that race, and they profit from people betting on that horse? That is a big, bad look for them. And I know they didn't do it intentionally. People out there will go, oh, it's a scam. It's not a scam. It's just these new protocols have brought in a whole bunch of little issues that we've got to go and tidy up, but we have to tidy them up. They sit on this and they don't do anything about it, we're going to hammer them then, because this is a bad look and it has to change, Jules. You cannot have that going on.
I love the fact that we talk about things that are the issues, but I think there's solutions here too, isn't there? And the solutions are, look, they can be quite contrasting and quite ridiculous too, because at the end of the day, if you've got information and not passing it on, then at the end of the day you go, well, you know what? We can't bet on that price. Now, that's not going to happen. There's still going to be always futures on the Melbourne Cup. Is the other solution a clause goes in to do something with, if it fails a scan, is the bet voided?
100%. I was on the phone to, I won't say it just because in case he doesn't want me to be a very high-profile media person last week, and who does a great job for our industry. And him and I were talking about this exact issues, and we both agreed that really the only way to do this is a special clause that only applies to the Melbourne Cup, but the horse gets ruled out due to a scan. The first people that get notified is the public. It's not the owners and that. It just comes out as a public because we have to maintain integrity. Bookmakers take the horse out of the market and refund and void all legs and multis and refund all bets on that horse. That's the way it is. Now, what's going to happen as a result of that, and punters need to understand, is that it's going to affect the odds of the horses in the race. Bookies aren't going to take as many risks because they're going to say, well, if the $3.50 Sir Delia's favourite comes out and I've been offering $9 about the second favourite or $8 about the second favourite, it's now going to be $5. I've got bad exposure there. So what you're going to see is all the odds go down. But that is a better outcome because it's not buyer beware. It's, the price you're taking in front of you. You can decide not to take that price if you don't want to. But that's very different to the other outcome. So, I think they've got to do it. I don't think they've got any option, Jules.
Yeah, they've definitely got to do something. And I think that's the crucial part is they cannot just look in the corner and say, well, that tiger didn't see me and I didn't see it back, so it's not going to eat me. At the end of the day, the tiger's going to eat your head off. So
the horse welfare, mate, it's great. We've got to look after the horse. There's no doubt. But you don't need to bend the punter over in the process. The two things can be independent of one another. To be fair, I don't know if there's much of that going on.
Yeah, correct. Talking about the Melbourne Cup qualifiers, what do you want to do? You want to get rid of them? Geelong Cup, Bendigo Cup. No, not Bendigo Cup. Geelong Cup, Moonee Valley Cup. You want to get rid of them?
I want to get rid of them.
Or you want to keep them?
No, I don't want to get rid of them. I think it's great to keep them. I think to make the Melbourne Cup back as the race that stops the nation, you've got to engage the other states a bit better than what they are. I'd like to see some qualifiers in other states, one in Perth, one in Queensland, just an automatic qualification there. That's specifically for horses from that state. Now, I get that we're going to get horses at 200 to 1 in there, but it gives the Queensland a representation, the Queenslanders a representation in that race, and their best stayer can come down. And same with Perth, maybe do it with SA as well. Probably not Northern Territory and Tassie, but those are the three states. I'd love to see it there.
I think that is madness. I didn't know. Yeah. That is absolutely ridiculous. That is,
it's
they've
ridiculous.
Got an opportunity to get down here for the carnival. There's so many opportunities to run down in races down here where you're just going to have
and then get scanned and get shut thrown out.
Territory, the Darwin Cup as a qualifier for the Melbourne.
No,
you are mad.
I said no to the Northern Territory. I think there should be a Queensland qualifier. a Perth qualifier, and I think that's a way to engage the other states a bit better. There's always horses at 200 and 300 to 1. You might laugh, but we've had 200 to 1 winners in the Melbourne Cup in the last decade. So horses that people are giving no chance to are turning up and winning the race. It's not a race that's for the punters and the data and the form. I mean, it is. We all have a crack at it. It's a race for the people. Yep. And that's what you've got to remember. It's a race for the people. So stop worrying about trying to get, fancy French horses out here and stuff like that. Give qualifiers in your own backyard here in Australia a chance to get in and let the Australians get behind the race again. It's a bloody awesome race. And at the moment, it's just on that little knife point where if they don't make a couple more bad decisions, it's really going to slip right off and we're going to find it hard to get it back. So hopefully they do get it right. Just on the qualifiers as well, Jules. So here's something for you. The Waterhouse and Bott team scanned Sir Dealey, without getting right back into it, before the Cox Plate because of the arduous procedure of scanning a horse. They've got to get sedated, they get injected with a dye. Not all horses really like it, and they don't really want to do that in the days leading up to a Melbourne Cup. So if you're allowed to scan a horse before its penultimate run, that being its second last run, before a Cox Plate, then we should be allowed to scan horses maybe a little bit earlier in the spring, and that would also help this whole situation. Maybe we can just say, look, let's just do the scans at the start of the spring. July is a pretty good time. Yes, it increases the risk slightly, but let's try that for the next few years. So that way, when the noms come out in, August, all the horses that want to have a crack, they've all gone and got their scan. It's actually good for the owners as well.
But in saying that, mate, I think if you did that, all of a sudden you're scanning 250 horses. Now, my gut feeling with that is that would be a cost issue now. It has to.
It will be a cost issue.
Yeah.
But again, are we putting money before the welfare?
Yeah. Well.
Come on.
Yeah. We ran
it's a $10 million race.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, he ran on Geelong Cup Day. That's the thing. He ran in the lead up to the race and then gets told, actually, you can't run in it. So no matter how you turn, there's going to be a problem with this.
Okay. All right. That was good. Thanks, pal.
It was all right. Yeah.